Some cultures, some countries, some civilizations, the ones that I have lived in, seem incredibly concerned about the greatness of their ancestors, the virtue of their deeds, the idea that somehow being born in a country endows us with certain characteristics: courage, the home of the brave, land of the free, etc., etc. Um, I've never understood it. I don't understand what that means. I don't understand where a person is psychologically that wants to fall back on that. But if, as people are now doing, are mystified by the European support of what's going on in Gaza, their interpretation of what's going on in Gaza as defense, Israeli defense, I think I don't really understand why people find that confusing at all. Because if you are a Western European country and you look back at your history, Michael Sandel was suggesting that the left should be more patriotic. You look back at your history, an awful lot of work needs to be done to turn that history, the part of the history that Douglas Murray would be the most proud of, the one that influenced the world through its great age of discovery. The great age of discovery could be called the age of genocide. Simple. So, when colonialists in the Americas, in Canada, that's in America, in Australasia, in sub-Saharan Africa, when they encountered resistance, they set about what amounted to genocide. The attitude, read any of the books, extraordinary, the Then and Now piece I wrote about recently. It's still the insistence on the fact that, Columbus discovered a beach in the Caribbean. The conquistadors followed, and the presumption, the Christian presumption that all that land was theirs is just stunning. It's simply stunning. The notion that, the whole founding of the United States, the move west, as I said before, if they'd gone east, they'd been in the middle of Prague before they realized suddenly, oh, actually, this is somebody else's land. They didn't. They went west, and they encountered a people that their church told them were less than people. That is the European boast. It is its finest hour. Is the spreading of that civilization, supposedly. So why ever would you be surprised that those nations would support, because they have this craven need for a past of glory and of achievement and superiority, supremacy. What Israel is doing, the support of Israel, I always found by the United States, and there's nothing to do with Israel, really nothing to do with Israel, but with that sense of unconscious or even conscious guilt, because people have been writing about this since it was done. See most of the many of the generals who encountered the Native Americans, what they wrote about the Native Americans and how justified the Native Americans were in their resistance because they were there. It was the rest of us who just fantasized and were fed by journalists of the day, telling us all about the horrible, barbaric red man. Anyway, this incredible need to compensate for what the most middling, most ordinarily intelligent person would understand is an extremely horrible history of treatment of other peoples. And I mean, even if to show up and to say, it's my joke the other day about, they didn't vote in their own best interest. To show up wherever you were, and to say to the people, not to the Chinese, by the way, it's such a shame that Columbus landed in America and didn't somehow, if America hadn't existed, or if the great continents hadn't existed, and he'd succeeded in his plan and he got to China, he could not have said to the Chinese, oh, by the way, this is our land. He'd have gotten a face full of gunpowder, and a good thing too. He'd have encountered a nasty militaristic regime just like the one he'd come from. Great shame that that didn't happen. So that's all really. I've been listening to my guys, Ilan Pape and Norman Finkelstein, talking around this issue. But I think that it's not complicated to understand why as limited a person as Joe Biden or Donald Trump or Kamala Harris can say the things they said and not understand the fascism of that position. It's genocidal. This is a country founded on genocide, and European wealth is mostly based on the exploitation of, if not the genocide of, peoples all over the planet. A friend of mine once said, well, that is an achievement, and I suppose it is. Is it one you're proud of? Are you really proud of Pizarro and Cortez for what they did? Is that an example of military? Is that a military achievement? And especially when you consider that most of these peoples that my ancestors encountered, most of them, the stories go, opened their arms to the stranger. Not a quality we share with them, by the way, obviously. And you know, odds cases like Captain Cook. The reason why Captain Cook was killed was he expected the native peoples on the South Sea Island to respond like everybody else had. Silly boy. They responded like the French. So, and I don't, this is not, I'm not condemning, you know, it's a psychological possibility in the human being, and frightened human beings who do not feel themselves connected, who have a faith that cannot not connect them, which is the monotheisms, do not connect us to the earth and to our brothers and sisters. The undeveloped human being will do what the Europeans have done, and what other peoples did not do as peoples. The individual contains the potential for all of these depravities. It is unfortunate that the European elevated those impulses to virtues. I mean, you know, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about the inhumanity of what Israel's doing right now. But it rings bells for anybody who's understood the history of the United States, of Great Britain, France, Germany, Belgium. You know, it's habit. Deuteronomy is the handbook of the Western world, and it is the handbook of genocide.